What a strange family.
Which one?
Three, two,
Yes?
1.
Yes?
Happy New Year!
Hey! I've forgotten.
Yeah, because we are recording this now at midnight in 2025. Is the new year here on Houseblading with me, Ben Baker.
And me, John Matthews.
What's your New Year's resolution?
My New Year's resolution is to watch much less Alf.
Oh, well, that might be tricky because we've got 2.5 seasons left to go through. Not to mention all the wonderful extras on our Patreon, which is Houseblading Extra. So, there's a lot to come in this year, and it's going to be there. It's going to be on. It's going to be available.
It will certainly exist.
The people are going to... Well, they're just going to. So, it is another year, the year of Alf. Every year is the year of Alf, of course. And, ooh-ah, cool small. Tell us about the Alf episode called The Boy Next Door. Because that is what we're talking about this week. That is this week's episode. If you're in America, that is obviously. If you're in Germany,
the episode was called Der Junge von Nebenan, and that translates to The Boy Next Door.
Oh, lovely. It's only the second time, I think, that the English and German titles have meshed, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's a good one. So, yes, if you were in America on January 4th, 1988, you could have been watching Alf, having had the shell shock of the Christmas special.
Oh, yeah. Yes. This is the first one after the Christmas special, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
All those new viewers that were dragged in. The record viewing figures of the Christmas episode. Did they stick around for this one?
Well, mostly, yes. It got 20.4, which is slightly down from Christmas, but only about like 1 million or so. So it finished 13th for the week between LA Law and... Sorry, let me just turn around so I'm away from the microphone. Matlock!
Excellent.
Waiting for that to be... The director of the episode was Bert Brinckerhoff, who's done most of this series so far. And the writers were Jean and Mike Reiss. And I don't know if it is Reiss or Rice. I believe we say it in different ways. But hey, you know what? It's them guys who went on to do loads of Simpsons and have obviously been showrunners on this particular series, which could explain the gag rate definitely shooting up.
The solidity, as it were, of this season has been very good. They're showrunners. They've brought a coherence and a good foundation to the show. But this is the first time we're getting to hear them write an episode. So we'll see how good they really are.
We're straight away in with the pop culture references. I'm not sure how we sort of looking at a penetration of them, but the family playing charades.
Yeah, it's nice to see them all doing something together for a change.
Yes, it is. Yeah, actually, yeah.
I can't remember the last time they've all been in the same room
and not like reacting to something horrendous that Alf has done.
Yeah.
So Kate is acting out a film, and she's sort of flapping her arms, and Al says,
The Jerk.
The Jerk is one of my top 5 movies of all time, so I was all in on that. And I think we should probably stop to admire Kate's outfit, which apparently is acid wash pants, a peach sweater, and some sort of native pastel scarf.
That's very pastel. I would like to make Willie's wardrobe at this point. It's an early Willie's wardrobe. But he seems to be wearing fleece that's made out of that black colour that absorbs 99.9% of all light in the visible spectrum. Vanta Black, I believe it's called.
Well, I put that he looks 65 at the very least in his cardigan and plaid shirt. He just looks like a much older man. And he's sat with this very tiny basket on his lap, which is probably popcorn, but could be potpourri. I don't know.
He is the sort of man who would bring his own potpourri, wouldn't
he? He really is, to a knife fight. And even Brian looks weird. He's kind of dressed like one of Kid and or Play. It's kind of like really urban shirt. And it's
Yeah. Also, they're doing charades, so they're all in odd positions anyway. But they haven't even given Brian somewhere to sit down. He's just stood next to Willie in his black hole sweater.
Well, he was at the other side of the room, and it just slowly started sucking him in, like a magnet. I assume that's what happened, basically. So, of course, Alf doesn't know how charades works. God knows how long they've been playing it while he's been stood there. Well, he's gonna have a go, and so what he does film. The film sign.
He gets it right, but I was kind of expecting him to do the standard I don't understand charades trope, whereby you say everything out loud, which is never funny. But no, he does it properly. He does the film sign, and then he points to himself.
Yeah, and Lynn guesses brother from another planet, which is dangerously hip, and I would say bordering on impenetrable. I don't know. I think only because there's brother from another series, which is the Simpsons episode, obviously. Yeah.
It's Cheers Goes to Harlem.
Get you something to drink, brother?
It's E.T. Rides the Underground Railroad.
Want to see me make all the white people disappear?
125th Street next.
That was fantastic.
It's the brother from another planet.
Man is a fugitive from a chain gang.
He's got radar for a mind, removable eyes, and a lovable smile.
Give me 5, brother.
Of course, the answer to Al Sharad is the man who would be king, because Alf loves a Saeed Jaffrey film. He does. He loves them. We have the theme tune, and then it's the next scene, and it's. I think they're pretty much stood in exactly the same place, as if like someone just cut.
This is the interesting, because it's not one of those non sequitur sort of intros like we've had in the past. It's definitely there because it continues into the episode, but it has nothing to do with the episode.
No.
It's not just something they pulled randomly off the shelf.
And there is a very weird structure to this one, as there's a kind of very long multi-set scene, really, that we're going to get for basically the first half of this show.
I suppose it is, yeah.
I thought it was a little bit like a stage play, which I kind of want to see.
There was a bit of a farce going on with them trying to go into different rooms, and Alf always being in the different room.
Yeah. But it does mean that when there is a knock on the door, we hear this.
You know, if you weren't always sending me to the kitchen, I might not eat so much.
Alf, please.
Well, no wonder Willie's pants don't fit me anymore.
So, again, a few things. One, Alf is aware that he eats too much.
Yeah.
But two, we've nearly weeks ago discussed and confirmed lack of pant wearing.
It was canon. We had it nailed down. Alf does not wear pants. And we don't have to think about it anymore. And now all of a sudden, he's making out he wears pants. I think it was a joke. I think it was an Alf gag. And I don't think we have to worry about it.
Or he just really likes rubbing his spuds on Willie's possessions, which, again,
I mean, that's character.
He's just as likely, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, who was at the door? Why, it's a triple Ochmonek sandwich. Yes.
Incredible.
Raquel, Trevor, of course, and Jake, who is Trevor's brother Cyril's kid. Now, there's not a lot of Cyrils in the world, and I must admit, my brain straight away went to Cyril Fletcher off of That's Life, and I had this kind of lovely mental image of Trevor and Cyril Fletcher looking for amusingly shaped potatoes.
Well, the only other Cyril I can think of off the top of my head was Cyril Smith, who also loved an amusingly shaped potato. And also, nice one, Cyril, whoever that Cyril was from that song of yesteryear.
I always assume Cyril Sneer, so, you know.
Oh, yeah, it must have been it, mustn't it?
So, yeah. So, Cyril is his brother, and he's in Chokey for 5 years, apparently.
Yeah, we see that, but the young Ochmonek, I know it looks incredibly unthreatening. You know, he looks like he looks like that kid who brought Dr. Potato Famine to the house that time, could beat him up quite significantly.
Yeah.
I also noted he looked like the one out of the New Kids or the Backstreet Boys who everybody forgot to invite on the reunion tour, and also looks like a young Pat Benatar.
all correct. Oh, absolutely spot on. Yeah.
My notes, ladies and gentlemen, my notes for the week.
He's very much that kind of typical disinterested, combative child that sitcoms have, not too scary.
He isn't won round by Willie sort of crouching over him going, "Who's this young fellow then?" Or whatever it was he said.
I mean, again, Willie does come across like he is at least from Victorian times, many weeks. But this in particular is like, oh, Shani Jim.
Josh Blake is playing Jake Ochmonek.
You found him, didn't you? You found him on
Facebook because his real name is Josh Buxbaum, which
wow,
aside from sounding like a lyric from a Yellow song, is much more showbiz than Josh Blake, I don't think. But he's a real estate investor now. He did all sorts of bit parts on TV, including 20 episodes of the famous Teddy Z.
The famous Teddy Z.
But decided to pack it all in to become a successful real estate investor. I'll message him on Facebook, as I did with Anne Shadeen, and see if he wants to come on. And as with Anne Shadeen, she won't even read it.
And I'm glad that he's become a successful real estate agent, because if he'd decided to become an unsuccessful one, that would be just sad.
Aren't we all in the great scheme of life unsuccessful real estate investors?
And that's a lit like life. There's a lot here. As I say, we're kind of switching between rooms, and Kate wants to fix drinks, and Raquel wants to help because she's really happy to be a mother. And, you know, she's kind of like got this little, again, sort of back and forth, and Kate says, oh, of course you can help me, then realises, obviously, there's a big bug in the kitchen.
You've got to get out of here.
I know. There's a big bug in here.
There's no bug. I just said that to fool Raquel.
You expect her to fall for that?
You did.
Well, I'm naive.
Please, you have to leave.
I just got here.
Now, I love Alf saying he's naive. He's so knowing, but charming.
I love that. It was great. You didn't even have to think about it. It was just a line that came straight out.
And again, it is kind of like something you'd get from The Simpsons, certainly early on.
Yes, it's kind of a Homer line, isn't it?
Kate wants him to leave the kitchen and says, isn't that a rattlesnake under the sink? And Alf makes the first of some very unusual noises. We get quite a few added to the Alf sound bank this week.
I'm gone.
His aghast look I enjoyed very much. It felt almost Hacker T-Dog-esque, the way he looked shocked across the room and then ran. And we didn't know he was afraid of rattlesnakes, I don't think, did we? Is that canon?
But I'm also terrified of snakes, so I feel me and Alf are connected a bit more by the soul. Soul brothers. So Alf kind of nips off, so to speak. And Raquel comes in, and this next bit is sort of done as a comedy bit, but it's genuinely heartbreaking.
Are we talking about the why they didn't have children? Yeah, he says, I've always wanted a child, but Trevor always wanted to go for his masters in art history.
And it's very much like, can you imagine Trevor?
Can you imagine Trevor doing it? But there is a very complex backstory here. There's quite a multi-layered and tragic storyline going on in the alternate sitcom The Ochmoneks Next Door.
Yeah, absolutely, which is clearly a single camera sitcom, which is much more dramedy. This is the most Raquel we've really had outside of babbling about seeing Alf like a few episodes ago, really, isn't it? It's the most she's had to do. And she gets some good lines, because obviously she's talking about her worries of being a mother, and she does have like a long list of questions for Kate about parenting, and Kate goes, at least they don't shed in the milk. And this is brilliant. Raquel, it's like a very off, it's not like delivered like a big woofer. She goes, I haven't heard the old cliche in years. And it's like, it's a good joke, but it's not presented as a joke.
No, but again, that feels very Simpsons-esque. That's the sort of thing you would get in that sort of thing. Kind of a dry, if you weren't really fully paying attention, you wouldn't know it was a joke.
Yeah, absolutely. And but then you get like a big comedy thing of, I have a few questions, big long list, obviously, that's comedy 101. Also, British people watching this scene will be aghast at what they're doing whilst having this conversation.
Yeah, I'm not much of a tea drinker. But even I knew that spooning tea out
into beakers,
and I couldn't really. I just didn't. Really.
I assume it was iced tea, but it's just powders and it just wasn't right.
Yeah. They do a lot of things right to the Americans, but they don't do tea.
And if you are American and you understand tea, why not drop us a line? I won't read it, but it's nice to have that interaction and feel of belonging. So we're going back and forth from various rooms. So we're back in the living room for the next bit, and Lynn and Brian are trying to talk to Jake, who's just kind of lounging all over the sofa because he is tattooed to the max. He's so hardcore. He can't wait to drop out of school, and he's just such a bad boy.
He says that he's 14 at this point. The actor is just 13, I believe, at this point. And Lynn, who he is not exactly chatting up, but he's making lecherous comments towards, she's about to vote in the next election, so she's either 17 or 18. So, yeah.
Yes, there is a lot of him trying to basically cop off with Lynn. But it's better than Alf doing it, I suppose, so...
I mean, Willie doesn't know what to do. I mean, Willie's sort of stood there. As he makes these lecherous comments, cowardly Willie stood in the background, looking...
The cowardly Willie. Oh, why didn't they make a Wizard of Oz episode? That would have been so easy. So Trevor wants a little private word with Willie, and they're so struggling to find a room that Alf isn't in.
Willie, can we talk in private? Sure, we can go into the laundry room?
No. There's laundry in there.
Well, the bedroom. Then no one can hear us in there.
Raquel can.
But dirty cow.
Yeah.
Their once a week sexual congress is for their own private use. And obviously Alf, who's under the bed throughout it, probably.
I can't imagine it's very raucous or rough or riotous. So she can still hear that, but she can't hear Alf hollering his way through his antics every week.
And speaking of Alf, he's trying to climb into the bedroom window. Apparently getting a fireman's lift from Lucky, the cat.
Yeah,
so,
possibly Al and Mike don't quite understand Alf's relationship with Lucky at this point, but they know they've got to bring a cat in at some point.
Well, this is true. So we get a lot of, you can't come in here yet stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of that in this episode.
Well, it's brilliant because they're walking into the bedroom and Willie sees Alf scrabbling in the window and he slams the door right in Trevor's face without a ne'er-do-well or a thank you. And there's a yelp from Trevor behind the door, and it's my top line of the show where he goes, "Wow, right in the navel."
I mean, genuinely, I think all of this next bit is top Willie for me, the best bit of Willie. I couldn't pick one because there's lots of little. So I'm gonna play a clip.
Alf, hide, get out.
I'm not even in yet.
Trevor's waiting right outside.
First promise me you'll build me a room of my own.
Hide now, or else.
Wasn't that a Chuck Norris film?
Well, that was my impenetrable pop culture reference of the week. I'm well aware that Chuck Norris is very, very penetrable, but I've only seen one Chuck Norris film, and that's Breaker Breaker. And so I did look him up to see if we get anything out of it. Carlos Ray Chuck Norris, born 1940, American martial artist, and you know all this. But Norris's present martial arts system is the Chuck Norris system, formerly known as Chun Kuk Do. The art includes a code of honour and rules to live by. The rules are from Norris's personal code, and I thought we could perhaps have our own Alf-splaining personal code.
Oh,
that follows the Chuck Norris rules. So I thought we'd have a look at Chuck Norris's rules for life and see how well we're doing at keeping up with them. So the first one is, I will develop myself to the maximum of my potential in all ways.
It seems unlikely. I'll be honest with you, Chuck. I'm sorry.
We've got an Alf podcast, and that is as much as I ever dreamed, to be honest.
I mean, if you mean in the realms of Alf-based activity, then yes, very much so.
I will look for the good in all people and make them feel worthwhile.
I mean, we do that, definitely. If they're a Patreon, we do it a bit more.
If I have nothing good to say about the person, I will say nothing.
No, it's not. It's not really how podcast work again, is it?
Bearing in mind, this is Chuck Norris's codes for life, and he's a Trump-supporting racist homophobe, so...
He loves kicking people in the face, though.
Yes. Well, the next one is, I will always remain loyal to my God, my country, family, and my friends. It doesn't say God, he says my God. My God. Mrs. Jones. And finally, he says I will remain highly goal-oriented throughout my life, because that positive attitude helps my family, my country, and myself. Now, I think those are great rules to live by, and I think we should adopt all those as rules, the Alf-splaining code.
Okay, well, I've been writing them all down, obviously, on my flesh with a pair of scissors. So, in that respect, brilliant. So, yeah, Trevor's having difficulties here, and I'm just going to play you this little bit, because just soak in the range of emotions.
Trevor, what did you want to talk about?
Jake. I don't know what I'm going to do with that kid. He talks back, he disobeys, and I think he stole a bag of peat moss from our living room.
Why would you have a bag of peat moss in your living room?
To keep people from stealing it.
Well, obviously.
We've always said this. He's always said this. He's probably the most likable character in the whole show.
Yeah, it's most real.
The gag about the peat moss was a very good Jean and Mike Reiss joke. Really good, really strong, that. But yeah, the Trevor and Willie heart-to-heart. I mean, Willie, you remember when Willie was a counsellor or runaway teen expert or some such shit like that, whatever it was? He should be able to help. This is his wheelhouse.
It really is. But that implies that Trevor would understand what Willie does for a living. Which not a lot of us do, to be honest with you. I think it took us like about 25 episodes.
When we saw him in episode 2, of course, we saw his work colleague Herb. Now, I was wondering what had happened to Herb, and also the other thing I've been doing recently is listening to true crime podcasts, and they're very successful.
I mean, they are. They really are.
Much like Alf's Planning, they're very successful podcasts, and I wondered if we could introduce an element of a true crime podcast into Alf's Planning to keep people engaged.
Oh,
we'll investigate whatever happened to Herb, and we'll present our findings over the weeks. And it's partly because that's interesting, but partly was you'll get people tuning in week by week, and our ratings will skyrocket.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I just put some blood splatter on the logo. It'd be great.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
do that.
So, people, we will be starting the Alf's Planning Mysteries.
Herbicide.
Yeah.
Commission time 2000. I'm bloody in. Again, there's not much Alf in this section, but at least we have the next best thing, I suppose, in Trevor. But the Ochmoneks leave because Jake's been rude and hitting on Lynn, and it's just all a bit weird. But they invite him round later for cake.
Hey, why don't you come over after supper? You can have some cake. And then he bullies Brian on his way out. Jake, not Willie. Willie does nothing. He does nothing at all.
I'm sure he'll write a very acidic ditty on the piano about him later when he's gone. I'm sure that'll be how Willie handles it.
However, we must say that Brian's response to being bullied, which is basically to shrug, was outstanding.
Yeah,
and a brilliant delivery of a simple line. We've criticised Brian to some extent over Alf's Planning over the years, but when he does good, we should compliment him as well.
We should. God rest his soul. So we finally left that scene. This mini play that was going on, and we obviously now it's time for Jake to turn up for what is he turning up for, Alf?
Cake.
Again, Alf at his most Homer Simpson here, bellowing cake with a knife and fork in his hands. A weary Kate and Willie just sat there like,
I mean, imagine you'd been invited round to your neighbour's house to sit at the table with the two parents to eat a rather dry-looking cake. I wouldn't do that, but Kate is reading Money magazine at this point.
Yes.
I assumed it was like Alf magazine, but devoted to the 1980s cartoon advertising mascot Money.
Oh, from the Access adverts.
Yeah. And a big pull-out poster of your flexible friend in the middle.
Oh, that's
what I assume that the Money magazine is all about.
Yeah, I'd read that, definitely. Alf at this point tells us about Pretty Boy Somewhere.
He grew up on the south side of Melmac, the baddest part of the planet. If he didn't like your shoes...
You mean he'd shoot a person just because he didn't like his shoes?
No. He'd just point at them and go...
So Lynn comes in and says, Mr. Ochmonek just called. He said Jake won't come over. But Willie goes, I didn't hear the phone. And Lynn goes, no, he just hollered through my window. Again, beautiful. Beautiful guy.
Yeah.
And then when it's finally allowed the cake, which, as you say, he's been shuffling slower and slower towards him, he makes yet another horrific noise.
Would you like some cake?
So we move away from indoors because it's nighttime, and straight away Jake is on the prowl. He's looking for stuff to nick, and he's gone into Willie's shed to steal, naturally, what you'd assume of all the computer gear and the music gear and's there, a telescope.
Of all the scopes that are in there, he chooses the telescope.
And he's just screwed off the telescope when he's interrupted by Alf, who naturally, as he always does about this time of night, presumably, moonwalks in singing Billie Jean.
Now, this is Alf essentially at his most dickish, because Alf knows how difficult Billie Jean will be to clear for the DVD.
Billie Jean is not my lover. She's just a girl who says that I am the one. Yeah, but the kid is not my son. Oh, yeah.
So Alf's that use Willie's CB radio and talk to Scotty, who is a Scottish person, and I'm doing speech marks saying all of these things because
I genuinely thought he was Finnish.
Oh, hi, Alf. Good to hear you, lad.
How'd you know it was me?
Because you always start with the same corny joke. Listen, I've just learned the new Madonna song, Papa Don't Preach.
he spoke at Scott. He went, suddenly, caught in the act. Jake freezes, and Al says,
drop that telescope.
Jake goes, okay, and throws it in a way which can only suggest that there were no time for more takes. Yeah, this is that. Oh, ad break. Alf has been spotted, but so is Jake, and Jake is terrified of Alf, understandably.
Alf is terrified of Jake because he thinks everybody will think he broke the telescope.
Yes, as well. And so Alf makes another weird noise.
Okay, I'll fix it. Just don't bite me.
Bite you? That's a good idea. I'll bite you if you don't fix this.
Just don't tell my aunt and uncle I was taking it.
On one condition. You fix this telescope, and you don't tell anyone about me.
That's two conditions. All right, you've got a deal. Do the Tanners know about you?
Yeah, they know all about me. Well, they don't know that I've had liposuction.
Where?
I don't know.
Write in and tell us where you think Alf has had liposuction.
Well, it's not his arse.
So there's a little bit of uneasy sort of back and forth here. It turns out Jake is very good at fixing things.
Yeah, he just happened to have a few telescope lenses in his pocket, and he's able to fix the telescope that he hurled to the ground and smashed into a billion pieces.
And they come to an agreement that, I will tell that you try to steal this, you don't tell that I am an illegal alien. Fairly, on a balance, those two things. But Jake says, I live by the Ochmonek code. We don't squeal or tip.
Beautiful.
Again, it's very Ochmonek, that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They do a little shake of hands, and Jake leaves. And Alf, who has been trying to show his intimidation face, does it into the mirror just to prove he still got it.
I wondered if they had a new version of Alf this week with moving eyebrows that made him look really angry, and was trying to make sure everybody saw that the eyebrows were indeed in working condition.
Yes, tax write-off if they use them. So we see inside the Ochmonek's house. I think maybe the third time we've seen him, possibly fourth. And Jake is playing basically with screwed up pieces of paper and a vase, which he's throwing them in. And the vase apparently contains Aunt Ruth. Not really, of course. He poured her into a Dixie cup first.
The timeline again on this is slightly off because Jake is still wearing the same clothes as he did earlier. Well, as Alf says later, this is Saturday, but I'm assuming him breaking into the garage in the middle of the night wasn't actually in the middle of the night. It was sort of just as the sun had gone down.
Yeah. This
is still the same day as when they were playing charades, is what I'm trying to say, except it appears to now be the next day.
Yeah. It's again, elastic time when it comes to Alf. But Alf pops around because he's got a few things that he'd like Jake to fix, and so Jake knows instantly what to do.
Auntie Raquel, you should get to the bedroom. I heard Uncle Trevor singing That's Amore.
That's strange. He usually just sets the egg timer. Trevor! Trevor, wait for me!
Races off for some titchy Trev. It's a great gag. But again, titchy Trev is on the way. So he opens the window, talks to Alf, and Raquel overhears the conversation, and Jake says, "Oh, it's just the TV," like the TV sounds like a bellowing New York Jewish man. And to make it sound like the TV's on, Alf goes, "Welcome to Monday Night Football."
Alf, it's Saturday.
He goes, "Live from New York, it's Saturday," and Jake cuts him off. And of course, it's a very penetrable pop culture reference, but I had to pick that one. Because, of course, that is the opening line from every episode of Saturday Night Live. Well, it's always the end line in the opening sketch, which is invariably about 15 minutes long, about politics and not funny. But it's... I like the idea, again, because that's an NBC show as well, so Alf keeping it in-house.
As Jake shuts off the TV, Alf yells, "Click," which was funny.
So, we're back in the house now, and Willie and Lynn are reading in front of a number of magazines, including the aforementioned Money, Life and Discover magazine, presumably all bought by Alf in his magazine-buying frenzy.
Oh, yes, of course.
A few months ago. Yeah. And I actually found what Willie was reading after a big troll through Abe Books.
No, really?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, he was reading Necessary Losses, the loves, illusions, dependencies, and impossible expectations that all of us have to grow up in order to grow, by Judith Viorst.
Christ.
It was published in 1986 and appeared for almost 2 years on the New York Times bestseller list.
Oh, well.
So it was a big, big book around the time. So I suspect Max Wright was just reading that anyway, and he just brought it on. That's the author. Apparently, he also wrote the children's book, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. So
You've got range there. You got range.
I'd say he also got range.
Who's that?
Trevor Ochmonek, who arrives dressed as the Hofmeister bear.
He does.
Which hopefully it will be screen grabbed for you to enjoy right now. He's dragging Jake round because he's found a tape recorder that Alf has asked him to fix and assumes he's stolen it. And he says, "Is this yours?" And he presses play and he likes what he hears.
I'm telling you, my sister is so fat, she gets her legs waxed at the car wash.
Yes, that's ours. Who's the comedian?
You ever heard of Jay Leno?
No.
It's Jay Leno.
Yeah, everybody's stony faced except Trevor, who loves that.
Yeah, it's great.
They should have meds. They should be friends.
They should be pals. And I don't know how Trevor hasn't heard of Jay Leno. He would have been well known for doing Tonight Show guest host at that point. But also, he'd had the special family-friendly hour that had been on a few weeks ago that Anne Shadeen had guested on.
Oh, yeah.
When we get into that bit, once again, it's like, well, of course, Victor Meldrew comes in, and there's a very good reason for the man being there. But obviously, Alf has to tell Willie that he's not stolen and what have you. So he drops a few well-chosen pssts.
And this is my top Willie of the moment, if not of the series so far. My top Willie, where Alf, or possibly Paul Fusco, hurls a barm cake at Willie's head with such ferocity that Andrew Elson cracks up laughing.
He genuinely rattles off him.
I mean, it's just
extraordinary.
And Willie, or possibly Max Wright, goes, "Could you just excuse me for a moment?"
Yeah. Honestly, it's wonderful. And I must admit, until we get into the kitchen and we see he's got a load of bread rolls, I thought it was a potato. Which, ow, not as bad.
The Ochmoneks look aghast at this. But what do they think is happening? What do they think has just happened?
What would happen if they just walked into the kitchen? We don't know.
We don't know.
Again, we just have it's powers of sitcom there. So, speaking of powers, Alf, while setting Willie straight in the kitchen, that obviously he's asked Jake to fix these things, tries to show Willie his powers of intimidation, and Willie genuinely looks quite visibly unnerved.
No, Jake won't tell Trevor. I physically intimidated him.
You. Don't. Oh, stop.
Everything's going to work out just fine. Oh, no! Another bread roll in the back of the head for Willie.
If that Top Willie moment wasn't funny enough for you, it happens again at possibly even greater velocity. Paul Fusco is stood just off camera hurling barm cakes at Willie's head.
And it turns out that he isn't throwing one. Alf is Heimliching himself because he's choking.
He's choking on his barm cake.
This the stuff I love Alf for. So we get a little sort of tag. And Alf is struggling how to jigsaw. But yeah, it's just a little sort of tag, just everything's back to normal. And Lynn comes in, just say like, oh yeah, Jake's doing loads of fixing us stuff. And we hear Trevor on a PA system shouting, testing, testing. Is this thing on at a deafening volume? And everyone kind of does that noise in their head. And yeah, it's over. That's it.
Yeah, no gag, no big gag to finish other than sort of Trevor on the PA system, and it just the episode comes to a gentle stop.
And so yeah, again another kind of weird structure. Well, it seemed like that was a deliberate thing rather than it just being odd. You know, it did seem like they were trying, to sort of break up the action a little bit because, again, it is a lot of people just stood around talking. This one, there's no big action scenes other than, a bread roll in the back of the head.
Another person meeting Alf for the, fifth time? Is this or fourth?
Yeah, no one's met Alf except for these 73 people who have.
But, again, a slightly different reaction to him than the others. And it's a meeting Alf episode, which I hope we have a lot more of.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. Again, I don't think Alf needs to be Alf for an alien.
Well, he has to be an alien for the meeting of Jake meeting an alien section of the plot.
Yeah, but again, he could just be some bloke who lives in the shed. That could be a magical tramp. I don't know. So all that remains really is the MVP of the episode. And honestly, I was really torn on this because I kind of wanted to go for Raquel for her scene because it's really good and there's a bit of drama in there and it's funny. But then she doesn't really get anything else to do.
No, everybody's there at the start of the episode and then the rest of it is, nobody's there.
Yeah, and I'm still going to give it to her because I think Trevor doesn't need another trophy for his underwear drawer, personally. But it was a very odd one to pick a favourite on.
I'm going to give it to Paul Fusco for his fantastic overarm throwing.
I'm going to give it to the bread roll for making the biggest impact. Good. And you can impact on us with your lovely words and retweets and everything on the old social medias. We're absolutely flipping everywhere. So do give us a bread roll, but in a nice way, possibly with some butter.
Lovely butter. Don't forget, starting next week, we'll be investigating the mystery of the missing herbicide, the Cosby Mysteries on NBC.
Da, da, da.
Mr. Ochmonek found his peat moss. It was in his dining room behind a bag of rock salt.